Crypto market is down. Altcoins are down even harder. The dollar is rallying. What's the reason for all this? And let's take an unbiased view like, what can we expect? Worst case scenario, best case scenario. So, just my opinion. I have no clue. Nobody has. Don't let anybody tell you that they do. But we can take our best analysis to it. So, welcome to the Fomo Factory. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Turn the bell notification on. Let's get into it. So, at the moment, Bitcoin is down to down all the way down to $91,600. Terrible, right? Now, if we start with Bitcoin and then move on to altcoins, seems like the most logical order for me because altcoins are kind of following what Bitcoin does, right? But why is Bitcoin doing what it's doing? Well, first of all, what you can see, like I said, the dollar is up. I don't know if I said down in the intro, but it's actually up at least. And the dollar is it's rallying and it's sitting at levels at like November 2022. Right now, if we take a look at this on the monthly chart, I'm very curious to see what it's going to do around this level, because where we are right now has gave a lot of resistances and support in the past. And even here, when it doesn't look like much, this is the monthly chart, right? So we went here and for months we struggled and we came back down, support. And when we broke down, it tested it as resistance for like half a year or so. So this is a huge level. So I'm curious, like, hey, is this something that the dollar can just break, which is not so well for crypto assets? And then I also have some kind of an expectation of what might happen to Bitcoin, or is it going to get rejected right here and can crypto go on with its rally? We'll see about that. No clue. I'm not about the macro. There are people on YouTube that know that better, so I'm not going to act like I know. All I do know is crypto cycles, right? And so far that has played out very, very, very well. So if we now look at Bitcoin, we had this run up around the elections, right? We had the elections. Crypto completely mooned and it came back down to around this level where we are right now, a couple of times actually at this level right here at the lower 91, give or take. And every time it went this low, we bounced really hard. So the short-term bull case scenario, in my opinion, is that this level so far has always shown like, hey, fantastic buying opportunity actually. Right? However, don't stare too blind at that because eventually supports and resistance levels are there to be broken. But that's for now holding. But we are again really, really, really pushing it. And we are actually pretty close to a lower low. If you compare that to where we were in November, then the actual low was sitting at $90,800. So we're not that far from that. So bull case scenario, again, is we come up to this level, we test it a lot of times, right? And eventually we will go on with the next move. That's what we're seeing in this market so far. It's not unrealistic. If you take a look at previous ranges as well, we come up to a new level. We range for a very long time. And even though we were making lower lows right here, which we are still not really doing, actually, we broke out and made a new high. And you can see this on shorter time frames as well. We found new highs, hovered there for a while, broke up, right? That's how Bitcoin usually moves in a bull market. Then we have the worst case scenario. Let's talk about that. But I already want to mention that whether it's a good case scenario or the worst case scenario that's going to play out, I think that that's staring too much at the shorter term. Okay, because it's 2025. We are in a bull market. If you understand the cycles, then you know that we have the halving years, the post-halving years, which are always bullish. And then eventually the year after the post-halving year, that's the year where it gets really bearish. So far, that's how crypto has moved in its entire existence, right? So it will be really stubborn to say like, well, now we have this news, so now that's not going to happen. Because in previous markets, people always said that as well. And we also had news that made it look like, oh, this is not going to be okay, and it always went into a bull market. Okay, so don't try to outsmart the market over the long term, because you will likely just fail. Okay, and you will either lose money or stay completely sidelined in the 1 year where crypto and especially altcoins are going up really, really, really hard. Um, Another thing for the longer term is this: if you look at the Bitcoin market cycle from the bottom, then you can see the purple line where we are right now. We are tracking the two previous cycles pretty precisely, right? Sometimes we are a little above it, sometimes we are a little below it, but overall we are following it. And if you look at the previous two cycles, we still have a long way to go. That's just a fact, right? And also, if you look like, hey, what can we expect right now? Well, in the last cycle around this time, we had a big correction. And in 2017, we had a big correction around this time as well, slightly later, right? And we are now in the middle of that. So a correction around this time, and I said it before, this was very predictable. So don't let this correction be here and make you think like everything is going to crap, because it would be weird if we didn't get it, right? The fact that we do have a correction makes me more bullish on the market, because it shows that we are following the previous markets even closer. Yeah, and if we do that, well, the previous markets eventually went up pretty hard. And this kind of shows that if we follow what we did last cycle, we have about 15 days to go before that correction was over, right? So that would mean around the end of January. So could it be that January is the month for people to get wrecked before we go up with the bull market and go on with the bull market from February, March? Based on this, that's very likely, at least. Yes, right? So another picture for me that shows like, hey, this is going to be really okay. And also, if you take a look at the social risk, the people, the retail in crypto, still sitting very low. Now, you have to realize, like, sometimes people might think like, well, retail is not coming in and this and that. Like, eventually retail will come in, but that's a domino effect, right? People are not coming in when things are sideways or a little down or whatever. That's a domino effect, and there will be one pieces that falls for the complete domino to play out. But what I do think is really bullish right here is, hey, retail levels are sitting just as low, for example, as they were here in November last year. And there was Bitcoin was sitting at like lower than 40K. Right now there's just as much retail, but Bitcoin is sitting over 90K. So we don't even need a lot of retail for the price to be that high, let alone when retail finally steps in. So I'm pretty okay with that. And also very simplistic, like, I will get into the worst case scenario, but I think that if you only look at the worst case scenario without having a perspective of where the market might go, yeah, then you're only gonna panic and say that it's over and you should sell and get yourself wrecked, right? That's not really helpful. If we look very simplistic at this as well, because the one thing in crypto that has proven that always works is following cycles, right? Not following news narratives, thinking that something is different. Believe me, that will get you wrecked. If you follow the cycle, there's one simple thing that you can look at. Halving, from the halving, we go up. From the halving, we go up. From the halving, we go up. From the halving, we go up, right? Now, you might feel like, hey, we went up a little bit and we went sideways. It's never vertical, right? We went up, sideways, up. Here we went sideways for a long time and it was more diagonal. Here it was more like sideways for the first time and then up and then down, sideways, up again. Now it's just sideways, up, sideways again. So it also, when it comes to this, I feel like quite bullish right here, actually. All right. Okay. What's the worst case scenario? And then let's also try to see what we can find out about the altcoin market. In the meantime, if you don't want to give it a like, helps me a lot. Appreciate that. Now, Bitcoin at this moment, again, it's sitting at the lower 90s. And this support so far is holding. But will it hold? Like, we don't know. You might say yes, you might say no. And one of those two camps is right. but it doesn't mean for the right reasons because you don't know, right? And if we have to gamble, yeah, it's going to make it hard, because if you then gamble on the wrong thing, you're going to get disappointed. So I think you should keep in mind that up and down are both possibilities, of course. Now, we discussed the fact that we can bounce here for the, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th time, right? That's nothing weird. And that we go higher than 96K or whatever. It could also be that we break this right now. How low can we go? A lot of things point to a lot lower, right? And with a lot lower, I mean 70-ish K, right? Now, I already want to mention, and that's what I said for months, like this possible, right? And I think that this outcome is very realistic. I'm not saying that it will happen, but there is a very good chance that this is gonna happen. And I can already tell you as well that if that happens, a lot of people will say that it's over. Well, again, in fact, that is actually bullish. Why? Because if we go there, right, then from where we came from eventually is a 35% drop. So far, every post-halving year, and then I mean January in the post-halving year, we had a correction of 35%. Last cycle, we had a correction of around 31.6%. And the year before that, the post-halving year before that, we had a correction of around 35%, right? So if we again have around a 35% correction, that's normal cycle behavior. And again, it will be more weird if it doesn't happen than if it does happen, right? Although, again, it feels for people, it might be over and it's super bad and this and that and that. It's normal. And if this is some kind of a move, right? Of course, people will look at the short term and here be like, oh, no. Then again, low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, right? It's in a massive long-term uptrend still. We have to really go below 48K to break the uptrend. So we have a lot of room to go, actually. We can go down from this point with another 40% and still be bullish. Although it might not feel like that at that moment, but try to look at the bigger picture. So that's a scenario that we just do what we did last cycles. And that would line up with a couple things. But one thing is, of course, the fact that we went to this zone right here where we hovered for like more than half a year, broke out and never retested, right? So a retest, like going to a certain new level, range, breakout, retest up, that's a very common pattern. That's normal. That's a bullish pattern, and that's a real opportunity when we are here. Because when we were here, there was no confirmation of breaking, and now there was, right? Plus, this was resistance, and if we now come down there, it's support. So that will be a massive opportunity. A massive opportunity. Again, if we go down that low. What's also possible is this. Is this. In 2017, January, you saw we had a correction of 35%. In 2021, it was more like 30%. It could be that these corrections are diminishing, right? And it could be that our current correction is going to be less big. So what's possible is that we go down to around, I don't know, the bull market support band, that it's going to be 23%, right? And it could be around 83, 84, 5, whenever we get there. That's another piece of support at this moment. Plus, if you take a look at the 100 simple moving average, you can see that that comes in at that comes in at $86,000. So that also kind of lines up with this level over here. By the time we break down, it might even be higher, right? Because we are above that moving average. We are above the bull market support. So these moving averages, they move up as long as we stay above them. It might be that we now, I don't know, hover a while, maybe go up one more time before we break down. And that by that time we get there and all these moving averages are sitting higher, and that lines up with, for example, this level right here, really the lower 90. So the more time we spend right here, the better, actually, right? Although we are now in a downtrend, again, that's nothing too weird. We were in a downtrend right here as well, in a way, way, way bigger downtrend, and it basically got followed up by 100% move. And now you can say like, oh, that's because of, no, that's like how the cycle moves, right? So that's a possibility. So what I think is that I'm not buying right now, I'm not selling right now. I'm not doing much. I want to see how this pattern plays out before I make my move, right? And will it be 70? Will it be 85? Or will it hold this level? I don't know yet. I don't know. But I do think that all these scenarios are realistic. Now, let's go to the altcoin market, because most people are not in Bitcoin anymore these days, right? At least not the people on this channel, probably. So how does that look for altcoins? Because altcoins are bleeding. Let's take a look at that. First thing I want to mention, though, if you look at the total crypto market, and I said this on the Alpha Factory, so if you're not there, check out the link down below. A lot of exclusive videos, etc. The 2021 high, this level where this line is right now, we broke it, we retested it, and now we are above it, right? So the structure for the total crypto market is looking really bullish at the moment. I'm not bearish on this. Even if we go below this a little bit and test this level right here, also still fine. But for now, it's really bullish, right? We had a major all-time high. You break it, retest it, and are above it. Like, what are we being bearish for? Like, guys, come on, seriously, right? We are being bearish for what might come, but not how things are looking at the moment. Plus, if you, this is how I said it in the Alpha Factory. If you look at this, if you reverse the chart, if this was an altcoin, I would take my loss and get out, right? We had a low right here, you bounce, you break that level and then try to retest it as resistance. And that's usually the level that you are getting rejected before you make a way lower low, right? That's how a chart usually works. Now, that's in this case how it looks like. Right, so I will be careful being long-term bearish, at least. The altcoin market at the moment is down. And that's because Bitcoin is down, but the Bitcoin dominance is up a little bit, right? So altcoins bleed a little harder. Overall, I see opportunity in this chart. I'm not seeing what I want to see. I'm seeing what I see, and based on that, I'll make up my mind on what I want, right? Like, if you look at this lower line, the altcoin market is in a major uptrend. And again, if you look from the cycle bottom, we are now up with around 350%, right? We are sitting quite near the high and nowhere near the low. So if you feel like the altcoin market is bearish, then you really also should consider like, hey, am I in the right altcoins? Because it is not bearish, right? What I'm seeing is a low, a high, a low, breakout, support right here, break down in the bear market, test this level again, go up, get rejected from this same level, down, back to this lower trend line as support, which is very much intact still, then go up, retest this again, get rejected, overall ranging to the upside, right? So that is really bullish, in my opinion. Now, eventually, that's a rising wedge and that breaks down. Eventually, right? But the breakdown usually happens on this large time frame in a bear market, which could easily be in a year from now. What I'm seeing right now is a very well expected rejection, actually, at this point, right? This like, for a lot of people, it came as a surprise that we are now down 30% from the highs. But we talked about it back then and be like, yeah, guys, I mean, look at this level, right? altcoins are still above the bull market support band. That's a good thing. That's something very bullish. And we are kind of almost in this range right here, which comes together with the bull market support band. So if you're looking to DCA, I would say this level between 280 and 3.5 is a great first level. Now, what could happen, worst case scenario, if Bitcoin goes down to 70K? Again, that depends on how the Bitcoin dominance is moving. Last cycle, when we had the Bitcoin got rejected and had that 30% correction, you can overlay it right here. Yeah, if we overlay it right here, then we can see it. If I click the right buttons, of course, sorry for that. You can see that the Bitcoin dominance was actually going down as well, right? So we had beginning of 2021, which was here. We had the Bitcoin correction of 30%, but the Bitcoin dominance also went down, as you can see. So what you see is that the altcoin market at that moment was going up, right? I expect that if we eventually get into that bigger correction, something similar might happen. Right, so it doesn't necessarily have to mean that altcoins are going down. I see a lot of people, they sometimes say, oh, Bitcoin go down. Imagine what altcoins do. Depends, what the dominance does. And the last cycle, that was like nothing to worry about. The cycle before that, January 2017, same kind of thing, right? Like, yeah, altcoins, they also had this small wick right here, but overall it was in an uptrend actually. So nothing too crazy. This time, altcoins are like, yeah, again, you can say that they're down hard, but overall, I think that if you in a couple months from now look at this in hindsight, you'd be like, what was actually the dip, right? Like, this is normal market behavior right here. Worst case scenario for altcoins is that we tag this trend line again. Now, that's going to feel for people like the world is over, right? People will capitulate. They will sell the bottom. They will think it's over. They will think that the bear market is here. Ignore that sentiment, please, because one, again, cycle says that's nonsense. Two, if you look at the chart, then what you will see is something like this. Yeah, I mean, in a bull market, buying the higher low is usually the best place to buy, right? Not to sell. You sell the higher high, if anything, but not the higher low. But yeah, the people do it the other way around because emotions, right? That's what's gonna mess it up for you. So that's what I'm focusing on this channel. I sometimes get these comments like, it's over. Like, okay, sorry if I can't help you, but I think there are a lot of people that might actually can use a little help when it comes to being not too emotional, right? I just look at this and be like, yeah, if this happens, okay, why should we do this? Right? This is a clear uptrend. If it was December this year and we were sitting at this line somewhere, then I would say, okay, guys, be careful. But time-wise, makes zero sense. Okay? So if we eventually get here, then I will feel like, okay, I'm all in. And we'll see. Because that's either way you get completely wrecked or where the real winners are being made and where the real people, where people make their real money, right? And based on how the cycle is behaving and how far we are in the cycle, I will feel very comfortable buying right here. And also, what I showed in the Alpha Factory is that sometimes people say like, the top is in. Top's in, like, okay, look at altcoins on the Bitcoin pair. Okay, alt season. How can the top be in if we are like here, right? That makes zero sense, actually. I've drawn this out. If you overlay the altcoin market and you look when the altcoin market topped, right here in 2021 and right here in 2018, 17, 18, then you can see that altcoins on their Bitcoin pair, so the alt season basically, here was sitting really high. We were in the middle of an alt season, basically. Right? And then altcoins stopped on their dollar pair, but they still went up on their Bitcoin pair. But it's because from this moment, Bitcoin started to go down, right? But alt season was still in full glory, but it was way after that bottom, after alt season began. Here as well, alt season began, and way after that, the top finally occurred, right? How can the top occur right here where we haven't had that yet? That doesn't happen, right? So I am very comfortable buying altcoins whenever we get to these lower levels, actually. So you have to wonder, like, hey, can I stomach the fact that altcoins might go down maybe another 30%, right? So far, it went down 30%, right? So from the cycle high, basically. If you compare your portfolio now to the cycle high, then that difference is the same difference as now and my worst case scenario. All right. So if you already lost, I don't know, 50% on your portfolio, then yeah, be prepared to lose another 50% if that plays out, right? And that's good. But it's also the greatest buying opportunity that we get. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the following play out, because usually quarter one of the post-halving year is a very bullish quarter. It doesn't mean that like it's the 13th right now, right? It doesn't mean that we have to kick off 2025 like that doesn't mean it. That's not what it means. We have a whole year to go. And in this case, a whole quarter. What could happen is that we go down in January, right? And maybe in February even more, and get to this line somewhere, maybe even a little bit in March, right? And then go up. It's possible, right? What's also possible is that we now bounce right here, go up right here until March, something like that. Well, maybe March, April, May, somewhat like that. Grind up slowly to a new high. And then have a summer capitulation, because May is usually not the best place to get in crypto, right? And then by that time, somewhere in July, maybe something, right, August, we get to this level where this diagonal line and this horizontal support meets up. And then in the second half of 2025, get that real explosive move. At the end of the day, I do expect this move up. Yeah, and don't get too caught up in what happens in the meantime, I would say. Right? If you look at the USDT dominance, this level right here is a big level, right? We want to see this thing go down. People putting money from USDT into whatever kind of crypto, right? That's what we want as a bull. Now, this level is huge. We need to break this. As soon as we break that, right? Let's say from this point, that's down 40, or I didn't put it exactly there, let's say 44%. 44%. From the move, from the ultimate wick in August until the low, that's the same move. Same, right? So then we have to look like, okay, what happened from the wick in August until the high? Well, with Bitcoin, it's very clear. Bitcoin, this was the wick in August, right? So what did Bitcoin do on a 44% USDT dominance move? Bitcoin went up with 120%. We can get eventually the same move, because I don't see a lot of room between this and this, right? This will be the next big support. That's my target eventually for this bull market, right? And that could line up with not another 120% maybe for Bitcoin. Maybe it does, but it's diminishing a little bit, right? So, but if it's another 120% from this level, then it will be around $200,000 Bitcoin. But it could also be a little lower, because it takes more money for Bitcoin to go up. So let's say, I don't know, 150 or so. And that eventually that money goes into the altcoin market. Yeah. Altcoins, like, they now go down, but as you can see, you have to realize altcoins, they go up 3 steps, go down 1 step. Up 3 steps, 1 down step. On that 1 step down, don't panic too much because you now see, you are now, well, you can see it like, you can see all the history, but you can now see you're in the middle of it, like how fast the altcoin market can move. Because there, like compared to Bitcoin, there's not a lot of liquidity, right? Here in a matter of a couple of weeks, the altcoin market went up with 140%, right? And now it's me. Elevator up, stare down. Elevator up, stare down. Well, I mean, let it go down. Step into the elevator and then ride it up, right? Especially when Bitcoin is sitting way higher. So my bull case scenario, short term, is that Bitcoin bounces off this level, goes up. My bear case scenario, the bear case scenario is that Bitcoin goes somewhere around 85K. My worst case scenario is that Bitcoin goes somewhere to 70, 75K. I'm not saying which one I think is more likely. I think they're all very likely. My bull case scenario for the altcoin market is that it bounces off of this bull market support band, goes up again to the next resistance level. My bear case scenario for the altcoin market is somewhere between that around 250. And my worst case scenario for altcoins is that it tags this trend line. And the longer it takes, the higher it is, right? My long-term outlook hasn't changed. That's still the same. Now, I'm very curious to see when it is going to play. Like, I have something in my mind that's going to play out, which we don't know if that's going to happen. But I'm very curious to see if that's happening, when it is going to play out. Because I showed you earlier that Q1 for alt season is very, very, very bullish. Q1 2017, big green candle. Q1 2015 as well, very bullish, right? The fact that we start off a little red, again, I got some comments like, hey, why isn't it bullish? Like, we're in a couple of days, like it's more than a couple of days, right? So the fact that it starts off a little red, whatever. I mean, it started off red right here as well, and look what it eventually did. So I think that this quarter is going to be fantastic for altcoins, and that's unchanged. I think that Bitcoin eventually will be very well. But yeah, a January correction, and a big correction, is like it's normal. This was to be expected, and I'm not panicking about that. I'm gonna let the altcoin market play out, and then I'm a buy heavy. So I would say stay tuned if you want to know what I'm buying. If you're interested in that, I think I got some major gems that I'm adding to my portfolio to completely nail this crypto market. So that's it for today, guys. If you want to like the video. Let's stay bullish in a bull market, okay? Let's not be too emotional because of the 1 minute charts or anything. It's a great time to be here. Dips are opportunities. And subscribe if you're new. See you tomorrow.